Mr. Gold for grown-ups himself. The legendary Mr. Paul Barnes, who owns the Apex Flying School up at the airport in Norwich. Well, the brave soul who bid an incredible £130 for a lesson was John Nelson. So we sent Kate Prout down to the airport to find out if John got real value for money.
Well, it's a blustery and a very cloudy day here on Norwich Airport, and I'm with the successful bidder for a flying lesson with Paul Barnes' flying company. His name's John Nelson. He bid £130 for it. John, what were you thinking?
I'm very, very nervous at the moment, very apprehensive. This will be the first time I've flown or even been up an airplane. As for going up one-to-one, I'm just a little bit nervous at the moment.
So, I mean, have you thought about flying for years? I mean, it's been a childhood dream.
I've always wanted to do it, but something's always in the back of my mind. You think, can I do it? Can I not? And when the Children Need Appeal came up, I thought, well, if I'm ever going to do it, it'll be for a cause, so I'll do it now.
And I know if you see it on a film or on television programmes, the actual cockpit looks so complicated.
It does. It really does. Yes, I've got some qualms.
Well, you're going to have a lesson shortly, but first of all, I think you and I are going up with Mr. Paul Barnes. He's going to give us a little trip around Norwich.
I'm looking forward to it.
Paul, you kindly donated a flying lesson for our Children in Need auction last November. So what's going to happen today? What sort of plane are we going up in?
The aircraft in question is actually a Piper Cherokee 140, which is a four-seater aircraft. Happens to be my favourite aeroplane at the moment because it came into the fleet towards the end of last year, and since then I seem to have flown little else, to the extent that I've actually had to be checked out on one of our other aircraft because it's so long since I've flown it. But what will happen first is that John gets a briefing from the instructor, Derwent, on the sort of rudiments of aviation. What keeps an aircraft in the air, which is quite comforting to know, once you're off the ground, there are forces which keep an aeroplane airborne. And then at the appropriate moment and at the appropriate altitude, John will be invited to take the controls, and you'll be able to turn the aircraft and make it climb, make it descend and so forth. But we draw the line at bombing Norwich.
Now, you're not actually a flying instructor yourself, are you? You're handing the reins over to someone else.
Yeah, well, I'm the proprietor of this ramshackle enterprise, but no, I don't have a license to instruct, but I do have a license to fly. I did toy with the idea of going on to become an instructor, but it's time. It's simply a matter of time.
Now, tell us a bit about Apex, the flying school that you run.
Well, Apex came into being in the summer of 1997 and actually began life in a single room with no daylight in the middle of Norwich Airport Terminal. And we flew people on the very first day. We had a couple of aircraft in the fleet. And from then, it's sort of tottered along more or less successfully. What's held us back is the fact that we're in very old premises on the wrong side of the airport, but shortly about to move to the other edge of the airport. And from being invisible and moderately successful, we're going to be highly visible and fantastically successful.
A man with confidence, I like it.
Oh, I have a little. You need it.
Now, what sort of people come for flying lessons generally? I mean, John hasn't flown before, so he's a bit sort of dodgy about it, I think.
Well, yeah, and I take this as a real compliment insofar as I understand that he bid for this flying lesson because he has an apprehension about flying and thought that by going for a trial flying lesson and donating the proceeds to charity, he'd feel a bit better about it. Well, I hope that in the event he's proved right. All kinds of people come and fly. I mean, for example, myself, a sort of middle-aged weirdo, took up flying as an act of senile folly in my mid-50s, and there are other such people who do it. But I think our youngest student at the moment is about 18. Our oldest would be, in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. All kinds of people, from the rigs, from colleges, we have housewives who fly. It's an extraordinarily appealing or widely appealing sort of pastime is aviation.
And how many hours do you have to put in before you can actually start solo flying?
The minimum is 10, although that may have gone up because we're subject now to changes imposed by the Europeans. There's been an amalgamation of all these the various European countries, and they've come up with new regulations between them. So maybe a little more than that now. But normally people fly solo at about 14 or 15 hours because very few people are natural aviators. They need a bit of extra work.
So once you've actually grasped the notion of this plane staying up in the air and how it all fits together, is it quite basic flying a small plane like the one we're going to fly in?
It is pretty basic, but there are, as I said earlier, there are various forces acting on an aircraft, and you do need not a profound understanding of those forces, but at least a healthy understanding of those forces. You also need to understand things like air traffic control, and as you will hear, the language of air traffic control is utterly foreign to begin with. We understand it, fortunately, but it's like anything. You have to learn it. Once you learn it, you then begin to comprehend it.
Well, you're taking us up on quite an overcast day. Is the view going to be quite good, though, do you think?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's reasonably overcast, but reasonably bright. The cloud base, I think, is at about 2,500 feet. The visibility is 10 kilometres or more, although it's slightly hazy. We prefer those days when you can take off from Norwich Airport and see the sugar beet factory at Bury. Absolutely pin sharp. It's wonderful then. But it's still pretty wonderful, even when it's slightly hazy.
Well, I'm going to take a back seat and let you and John get on with it. And well, thank you for donating it again.
It's my pleasure. And Kate, enjoy the ride.
Right, well, what I have to do first is, let me just go through this checklist. Adjusted and locked. You see, on airliners, they do all this.
Right.
And we do the same, but because Derwent flies so frequently, it's all in his head. I find it very reassuring to go through the checklist.
So do I.
Park brake is on. Radio's off. Well, reading from the left here, we have the airspeed indicator, which has actually got sort of subdivisions. The principal part of it is a green band, which is your normal operating band. There's a white band here, though, at the lower airspeeds, and that is to indicate the speed at which you use flaps. Right. In other words, if the aeroplane is actually going faster than that speed there, which is 110, that's in knots, then if you put the flaps down, you're in grave danger of the air whipping the things away. In fact, they won't whip away, but this is the flap operating speed. Then this is your normal operating level here. Yep. Then you get into a yellow area here, which is a sort of warning that the aircraft is going rather too fast. But the only way you get an aircraft like this into that sort of speed, 160 knots plus, is if you're in a dive. And if you get to that red mark there, that indicates the aircraft is likely to break up. But fear not, John, because
fear not.
We are not going into that particular envelope, as they say.
Goodness.
Now, below that, we have the turn coordinator, which indicates, first of all, which way the aircraft is actually turning. You see there's a little drawing of an aeroplane here.
I see.
Well, if the aeroplane were turning to the right, then that aeroplane would be seen to be turning to the right, or conversely, turning to the left. Mm-hmm. And there's a little ball below it which slides about in a tube. At the moment, that ball is in dead center because the aircraft is on the ground and in balance. If, however, we were flying and the aircraft was not properly balanced, the ball would be to one side
or the other. Yeah.
And to correct that, you press a little bit on the rudder. Yep. So if it's out to the right there, you press right rudder and that will bring it back to the center.
Yes.
Because a balanced aircraft is more comfortable to fly.
I see.
And it's also more efficient.
Yeah.
Back to the top row, this is an attitude indicator, or some people call it an AH, an artificial horizon. As you can see, there is a line going through the center.
Yes.
Above the line, the disc is blue, which presumably indicates the sky.
Or the sea.
And below that, it's black, which indicates the earth,
Right.
or the runway.
Right.
And this is the sort of thing that you would use if you were instrument flying. In other words, if you were in cloud and you had no visual reference, you couldn't see the horizon, you couldn't see the ground or the sea or whatever, then you need to know the attitude of the aircraft. And it's very difficult for the aircraft to get into a spiral dive because it's in the wrong attitude. So therefore, this would tell you if the aircraft is actually flying straight and level, or if it's actually banking and possibly diving.
Right.
Below that, we have the direction indicator, which is like a compass, but not quite the same, because this is prone, on the one hand, to be very accurate, but it's also prone to wander off a bit, which is why, in addition to this, you have a magnetic compass in the top of the aeroplane there. And every so often, on a journey, you will find that they're both saying 30 or 30 at the moment, which means that the aircraft is actually pointing northwest. But there could come a point on a journey where if you're steering 30, the compass may be indicating 30, but that may have gone off onto, say, 27.
Right.
And so you have to recorrect this one. But that's the one we tend to refer to more often, but we keep checking back to that one.
Yeah.
That also, it tends to be a bit slow reacting to changes in direction, you see the compass there, whereas this is fairly prompt in its reaction to a change in direction.
Yeah.
Right, what else have we got? This is the RPM indicator. That's
Revs per minute of the engine.
Performance, oil temperature, oil pressure. Fuel pressure is to indicate whether the pumps are working correctly. And then you have tank capacity there, tank capacity there. Now steaming up, so I'll...
Is that Kate in the back or us in the front?
It's the passion of the occasion.
Right.
So I'll carry on through my my checklist here. He did leave the keys, didn't he? Flight controls, full and free movement. This is where I have to... That's it. And backwards and forwards. Now, I can't check the rudder because the rudder is also a brake.
Right, okay.
And so the wheel is locked. The nose wheel and the rudder are actually interlinked here.
Yeah.
Cabin air controls closed. Well, I closed those when I came in. Throttle full and free movement, and set the quarter-inch open. Master switch on. Circuit breakers, fuses, secure. They're all in. Yeah.
Can we shut up again?
Yeah, thank you. Beacon on. Fuel on. Select tank with lowest contents. Well, he's already done that. Come on. Set to 1200. There we are. Right, temperature, pressure, fine. Starter warning light is out. Amateur charging and suction between. Flight instruments set as required.
Right.
Radio.
Radio Norfolk.
We'll go for that one. I think.
Can we get Radio Norfolk on there?
All right, 124.25. Nice, good afternoon, Golf Mike Kilo Alpha Sierra, radio check.
Alpha Sierra 5, standby. Breaker, got correction, Bristow 041, Robinson climbing out of Sprowston Manor, possibly opposite direction to you, climbing to about 1,000 feet.
Looking careful.
Golf Alpha Sierra, readability 5, partial message.
Golf Alpha Sierra 5's also. Request taxi instructions, please, for a VFR flight to the northwest, 3 POB.
Golf Mike Kilo Alpha Sierra, Roger, what is your position?
Stand 5.
Roger, taxi to Alpha 1 initially for runway 27, QNH 985.
Alpha 1 for 27, 985, Golf Alpha Sierra.
We haven't got gaps in the aircraft and we have to run our feet on the ground.
I hope it never comes to that.
Bristol 04.
Are you strapped in, Kate?
Golf Alpha Sierra, continue taxiing Alpha 2, runway 27.
Golf Alpha Sierra. See the balance ball moving as I move the rudder?
Yeah.
When we get to this position here, we have to do power checks.
Right.
And then we have to tell them we're ready for departure, and they'll say whether or not we can go onto the runway. It's wonderful flying at night. Come down here, all these little lights are blue at the edge of the...
I was going to ask you, when you're flying at night, all these instruments obviously light up.
Not all of them, no. And you carry a little torch just in case they don't.
You don't carry a spare box of matches.
Now there's a thought. Right, so we're at the threshold now. Into wind, check, clear all round, especially behind. Yes, we're all right. 1200. Change to fuller tank. Oh, do that for the hell of it.
Bristol 04, roger, continue approach for runway 27.
T's and P's. Let's, check 2000. Brakes holding, car paint. Mag. Suctions round 5.
Bristol 04, clear to let down runway 27 to vacate on the left about 300 metres down the runway. The surface wind is 310 at 8 knots.
So let down, vacate to the left.
Okay, trim set for takeoff. Right. Throttle friction, finger tight, yeah. Mixture rich, yes. Magnetos on, both on. Pitot heater as required, negative. Primer locked, fuel pump on. Flaps negative, instruments checked and set. Hatches.
Pin down the hatches.
Okay,
Batten down the hatches.
harnesses, everybody secure. Carb heat. Let me check again. Right, controls full and free movement in the correct sense. Right, you can be in charge of navigation, okay?
Okay. Affirmative.
We've got a helicopter up there.
Yeah. I'll just let him go by. Golf Alpha Sierra is ready for departure.
Golf Alpha Sierra, roger. After the approaching Robinson 22 has passed you, line up, wait, runway 27.
That aircraft is passed, so lining up on 27 Golf Alpha Sierra.
Golf Alpha Sierra, expect a right turn out VFR, squawk 7,000.
Expect right turn out VFR, squawking 7,000 Golf Alpha Sierra. They've said it's clear, but the responsibility for absolute clearance is mine.
Yes, because the Jaguars do come up rather fast, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you have much trouble?
Golf Alpha Sierra, clear takeoff, runway 27, 300, 12 knots.
Clear takeoff, Golf Alpha Sierra.
Golf Foxtrot November, report final. Report final, Golf Foxtrot November. Yep, on the way.
There's the tower where you'll be going later.
Right.
I think I've actually picked a nice time for the flight.
It's not bad.
The trees are just gradually getting the leaves, aren't they?
Yes, in another month's time, it's beautiful.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Norfolk and Norwich are a lovely place.
Handsome.
As far as you can see, that is actually the Norfolk coastline, isn't it?
It is, yep.
Wind is quite strong today, but not...
Golf Alpha Sierra, contact approach 11935.
119.35, Golf Alpha Sierra. And we're levelling. I trim the aircraft to fly nice and easily at 2,000 feet. Now, can you see this down on the left-hand side here?
Yes, I can.
That's Attlebridge, old aerodrome.
Right.
See the runways there?
Mm-hmm.
Lined with turkey sheds now.
Turkey sheds.
Yeah.
Lovely and flat, isn't it?
Yes, although if ever you try jogging in Norfolk, you find out it's not as flat as people think it is.
In my younger years, perhaps.
I still do, but not enough.
There's several famous air bases around here that were used during the war.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And one can see why.
Oh, this part of England was effectively a sort of aircraft carrier, you know?
Mm. Yes.
So do you have a yearning to learn to fly?
Thinking about it. I'm still a bit dubious. It's nice to come up with two experts such as yourself and your cool.
My instructor, yeah.
Yes.
You say the sweetest thing. Right, well there's Swanton Morley, under the wing.
Yes, okay.
And
everything's under the wings from here.
Right, down here, that's the A47, that road.
Yep.
And we're just approaching Dereham.
Oh, right. Yes, I can see the water tower.
Yeah. A familiar landmark.
Which leads on, of course, to the hospital just by it.
Yeah. And I'm just going to call Norwich. Norwich approach, Golf Mike Kilo Alpha Sierra.
Golf Mike Kilo Alpha Sierra.
Golf Mike Kilo Alpha Sierra is turning now over Dereham, and I'll be heading for home. So joining instructions, please.
Golf Alpha Sierra, put Norwich in sight, expected to end downwind left hand on runway 27, QFE 982 millibars.
Join left hand downwind for 27982, Golf Alpha Sierra. Now on the nose is another aerodrome, Shipdham.
Yes.
Can you see the runways there?
Yes, okay. They're not far from each other, are they?
No, they're not. You imagine what it was like during the war when they were all taking off together. There's the A47 going straight as an arrow.
Sort of an arrow till they get to King's Lynn.
Yeah.
So which way would they take off in the... going back to wartime, towards the continent, which way would they go?
Well, it depends which way the wind's blowing. You notice we took off on runway 27. We took off going westwards. That's because the wind is coming from a westerly direction. You always take off into the wind.
Yes.
There's the old railway line here.
Yes.
Right, we start descending now because we go into what's called the circuit. And the standard height for the circuit is 1,000 feet.
Right.
So we'll be going across Norwich at 1,000 feet.
Okay.
So in order to lose altitude, I slow the engine a bit and just let the aeroplane sink very slightly rather than crudely point the nose at the ground.
Yes. Okay, no sudden movements. No,
don't worry, you're safe with me.
Come fly with me, come fly.
What is your level?
Present level 1,400 feet, Golf Alpha Sierra.
Alpha Sierra, and do you have the airborne in the flight?
Affirm, Golf Alpha Sierra.
Alpha Sierra, regular. Report ready for left base. The outbound traffic will leave left 10 o'clock, 1 mile crossing left to right.
Report ready for left base, and I copy that traffic and looking, Golf Alpha Sierra. Here we're going over the city. There's your cathedral of which you're so fond.
Yes. Okay, I'm just glad we're a little bit higher up than that. I always got a trepidation of sticking on top of this.
Right, we are at a stage now where we have to do checks called bumfitch, which is brakes, undercarriage, mixture, fuel, and we turn on the pump. Instruments, carb heat.
It's enough hospital, that's the school just to the left of it, Kate.
Harnesses. All your harnesses okay? Hatches okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
I suppose you know all these landmarks off by heart now.
One or two. There's your runway. Golf Alpha Sierra's final.
Golf Alpha Sierra, clear to land, runway 27, 290, 10 knots.
Clear land, Golf Alpha Sierra. Next left.
Golf Alpha Sierra, apron.
Can do. Bumpers off, landing light off, flaps up, carby cold. There, that didn't hurt a bit, did it?
Very nice, very enjoyable. That's just... No, it was lovely.
Golf Alpha Sierra vacated, and we'll see you shortly.
Golf Alpha Sierra, roger.
You know you steer with the feet, don't you?
Yes, I did a little bit of steering while we were...
Yeah, but I'm holding this back here because it eases the burden on the nose wheel.
Mm-hmm.
But we leave the radios on in case they need to communicate something to us.
Between now and stopping, yes.
You always sustain contact with the air traffic control while you're manoeuvring on the aerodrome.
Until the moment you switch it off and parked, yeah.
Mind you, I've had radio failure on the ground and had to use my initiative, yeah. But there are rules, you see. Part of your pilot study is aviation law, and there are certain rules and procedures on an aerodrome that you have to observe.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So we're going to put the brake on, and we have to do a dead cut on the engine. Okay, we now close the throttle, like so, and we now starve it of juice.
Right.
And when the propeller stops, you remove the keys.
Stops rather quickly, doesn't it?
And you then turn it on.
Well done.
There you are.
That's been absolutely super.
Well, John, your feet are now firmly back on terra firma. How is it for you?
Still a bit shaky. It's really lovely, really beautiful flight. Paul and his co-pilot made me feel very much at ease, and it was really worth it.
It was amazing seeing all these kind of these land sites that we know so well, like the cathedral, like the UEA, and seeing them. They're so tiny.
They were very, very small. What I did enjoy was seeing the colour of the different trees coming out into leaf. That was very nice. I was imagine in about 2 or 3 weeks' time it would be lovely up there.
Yeah, definitely. And has this cured your fear of flying is a big question.
Yeah, so I've done it once. I think I would do it again. I've done it. That's the main thing.
Well, thanks for donating the money to Children in Need, and I hope it's been worth it for you.
Pleasure.
So there we are. That was our very own Kate Prout, along with Paul Barnes up at the Norwich Airport alongside the successful bidder for Children in Need. That was for a flying lesson. His name was John Nelson. I think he enjoyed it. John was a wee bit apprehensive to begin with, but he was in good company along with Barnsley up there. And we haven't heard if he's definitely going to pursue his flying lessons, but it's definitely cured him of his fear of flying. So well done to John Nelson. And John, thank you very much indeed for the generous donation of £130 for a lesson from dear old Barnsley. And don't forget, by the way, you can catch Barnsley on Sunday night, 6 o'clock, for music, gold for grown-ups. Good programme too. And other follow-ups from the auction to look out for in the coming months. The lady who bid to have her garden renovated by Will Giles and Tony Fry. We should be following that up. I believe Bressingham have kindly donated 100 quid's worth of plants as well, so we'll be putting those in the garden and finding out how that particular lady's garden is getting on. And also to the lucky lady who became an auctioneer, who will become an auctioneer at Gazers over in Dis for the day. We should be following her over there. Our recorders will be there, and the lady in question will be knocking down some lots at Gazers, and I believe they're presenting her with a bottle of champagne as well. Now, we're up in the air with Barnsley. The traffic news from down below. One of our jambusters has called in with the following message. There's a 1 mile tailback on the A10 at Westwinch. The road is blocked on the northbound lane going into Lynn, so that's on the A10 at Westwinch. There's a delay at the moment, about a mile tailback.